Everybody, welcome back. Doing another Falcon and Winter Soldier video. This time, episode 2 recap, as always, with Mike and Eddie. So we'll dive into the episode. Got a lot of juicy, good stuff in this one. New characters kind of potentially coming. A lot of good Easter eggs. So let's go chat on this one. Lots of stuff to come here.
Thor.
All right, what's up, dudes? How are you guys doing?
Hey, doing well.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
Nice to see, as always, your wonderfully beautiful faces.
That guy more than me.
Well, I don't know. You're both very attractive men. I'm not gonna lie. So, Falcon and Winter Soldier episode 2. Basically a ton of new characters, right? We got, and we'll hit these as we kind of go through the episode a little bit. But we got John Walker, U.S. agent. We talked about a little bit. Battlestar, not expecting that. So there's going to be that whole dynamic with John Walker's little team there. Isaiah Bradley, which might just be an Easter egg, but it was a dope Easter egg. We'll get into that. Power Broker, Zemo, Elijah Bradley. We'll talk about that some. And then one of the things, we started to allude to this in the last episode that we shot together, basically where the show is going to have a racial undertone. To me, that is definitely happening in this. I personally really like it. I think it's going to be really cool. I want to see where they take it. I hope they definitely continue to do it. Now, I mentioned this to Eddie before we were shooting, but there was a trigger warning that was technically added to the show. I don't know exactly where if it's in their promos or if it's somewhere in Disney Plus or something. But it has something to do with recent events. And I definitely, and Eddie will touch on this a little bit when we get into the scene, because he mentioned there was a trigger that happened during the scene and I was like, was it this? And I'm like, yeah, this trigger warning. So we'll get into that, but it's going to be definitely, I think it's revolving around race, but we'll see. Eddie will tap on the one that triggered him during the episode. And I think we're going to be seeing some more of those as we go.
For sure.
Now, one of the things that I want to say before, again, getting into the episode is, when we go back to what was it, Endgame, and old Cap gave the shield to Falcon. I was like, oh man, really, Falcon? Like, all right, I guess that's cool, whatever. Like, all right, Anthony Mack, he's more of a comical, jovial, cut the check. Like, that's what he does on set, which is fine. That's on set. That's cool. But I have to admit, I was just like, I don't really like this. I don't. But now, after already episode 2, I'm like, give him back the friggin' shield. Like, no, he gets the shield. So before we get into the specifics of the episode and go, through the timeline a little bit, what are your guys' overarching thoughts? Eddie, we'll start with you.
Sure. You're not the first person to tell me that. I've heard that from so many people that when Falcon got the shield, everybody was like, oh, why did he get it? Why wasn't it Bucky for comic purposes and all that other stuff? But I'm kind of the person who's on the train of nowadays of being like, let's see how it plays out. I feel like there's been so many times in movies, especially where a certain actor is given a huge opportunity and people get and go, I don't think he can pull that off. Like, we saw the best when Heath Ledger was the Joker. Like, everybody doubted him, was like, he can't play, and then he gave like the best performance I've ever seen on screen. So I try to give people the benefit of the doubt before I go, I don't want to do, just so I want to see it play out. That's kind of where I'm at with that. I'm going to give it a chance. And then, like you said, having watched these first 2 episodes, I'm like, yo, he definitely deserves a shield. Like, I don't even know why we're talking about it. But yeah, Mike, what do you got?
No, I'm with you, Eddie. I feel the same way. I was a little bit different from Thor, where I didn't, when Cap gave him the shield, I didn't have actually a feeling, because my thing with Marvel is they know exactly what they're doing. They have a plan, 10 plans ahead of us that I just trust. So it was one of those things where I was like, I'm just gonna let this play, like you said, play out. And also to all these people who doubt actors and their roles, like you said, the Joker. One of the ones that I always go back to is when Daniel Craig was announced being James Bond. Everybody hated it. Everyone's like, you can't have a blonde James Bond or what. They just said all these different things. He's probably the best James Bond there ever been. Right. So So I'm with you on that sense. I let it play out, and in these 2 episodes, he needs that shield back. Like, that's his. It's no one else's. Simple fact. Whether he takes on the moniker of Captain America, it's his shield. That's all.
Right.
Yeah. No, I feel you guys.
Right.
So the episode starts with obviously the John Walker intro, at the high school, which seemed fine. He seems, innocent enough. Just this dude who's like, filling the shoes of Captain America. He seems clearly nervous about it, which is like, as I think any of us would, probably throwing up before going out there and being introduced like that, even with all that guy's credentials. I didn't really hate him at this point, but, Mike, I have to ask you, where's your radar with him at this point in the show?
So this was really interesting for me because that scene in the very beginning gave me like not like I like him, but like it wasn't a thing where he's like, I deserve this, I'm Captain America. Like, he had like almost like doubt, which makes you kind of like him. Now, my view changes a little bit as we go and talk, but that moment I was like, okay, so it wasn't like he went up to the government and was like, I want to be the new Captain America, and he's like some hotshot dude. It was, you can tell like this kind of came out of nowhere and he's just figuring it out.
Okay.
For that moment.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll check in at a couple other points during the episode. I just want, at that moment, I was kind of seeing. What about you, Eddie? What's your flavor at this point for him?
I'm in the exact same boat. I even have it written in my notes. Like that moment in the beginning when he is talking, when he's just sitting there and he's kind of in his, he's in his head, he's in his feelings. He's talking to that woman who I don't think she was introduced as who she was.
No, just some sort of love. Love interest for sure.
Yeah. And he's sitting there kind of questioning himself. I was like, I kind of feel for this guy. Like, you're given like this huge role of filling in these shoes and the shield for the most part, and like you're doubting yourself. And I was kind of like, I feel for this guy. And then as the episode went on, I was like, I hate this guy. Like, as it went on, I was like, I really truly hate this dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can get.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into that a little bit. But yeah, I had to test the flavor for you guys at that point because I was kind of like, all right, this isn't so bad. Maybe they're gonna make him.
For 1 second, he was likable. For one.
Yeah.
Just a minute.
Yeah. Right. So, all right. So it jumps after that. It's the Bucky and Falcon. They go on the mission. I do love the one part on this part that I just want to touch on a little bit is how Bucky's in the plane. They're arguing about the plan, all that type of thing. But my honestly favorite part was when he doesn't have a parachute. And he rips off the sleeve and he's like, I'm fine. And he just jumps out and leads with his arm. I'm like, all right, that's cool.
Lands on it.
Yeah, you do you. And I'm like, that's kind of, I mean, because they had been going like 300 to 500 miles an hour or something like that. And he's just like, yeah, I'll just jump out. No big deal.
2,000 feet in the air. You're like, whoa.
Yeah. So, before we get to the truck fight scene, was there anything in that kind of, while they were in the plane and the jump out, Eddie, that you picked up on?
I want to take one step back real quick,
Yep.
back to the moment where he's on Good Morning America, John Walker, and I want to talk about that section real quick because it was intriguing. First of all, he's up there and he's like, "Good morning, America," like very generic, kind of like it wasn't wholesome. It just came from a place of like, I have to do this. I'm just gonna say these words.
Yeah.
And in the interview, you see like that generic kind of news montage of him running with the backpack on. He's boxing, kind of like Cap did in the first Avengers, and then you see him throwing the shield, which I thought was kind of intriguing because you're like, all right. This guy just got handed this incredible opportunity, and he's throwing that shield like he's had it for like a handful of years. Like incredible accuracy, catching it off the cuff. Like there was no hesitation, which makes you wonder if they didn't give him something like the super soldier serum. So I'm naturally assuming that because of how good he is already, there's more to it than we realize. But like given a news montage, you wouldn't think that. But like us as fans or us as viewers, we're like, there's something there. He's just already good, which I find a little bit intriguing. Mike, what do you think?
Well, I mean, with that, when they started listing like all the accolades he's done, like minus being a super soldier, like he was a pretty badass soldier.
Right.
And also too, I think, and I don't know but it seems like, to your credit, I think there's a way like you can magnetize that shield for it to like come back to him. Like, I don't know if he's like a super soldier, but like there must be like almost like a help thing, like he has something attached to his hand that he can catch the shield and do all that stuff. Because I'm with you, like the only people I've seen be able to catch the shield have been like Captain America and Winter Soldier and like Black Panther, like people who are super, you know. So there might be something kind of assisting him, because even in the truck scene, he seemed to be wielding it pretty good.
Yeah, right.
But I think in terms of like being a normal man, he's definitely like above and beyond, like probably stronger than a normal guy and all that, but maybe not a super soldier. So I think they do take a little bit of like, they overhype him a little bit because they say how smart he is and all the things he's done. So I think he's definitely like a badass soldier, but you know, I'm with you on that.
Right.
No, that's a good pickup. I do remember when I saw him throwing that shield by the lake. I'm kind of like, that dude is throwing that crazy hard, super accurate. And I was trying to look for that magnet thing, Mike, that you were talking about, because I do remember that. I think it was maybe all the Avengers Ultron. Yeah, where Stark gave Cap, you know, some sort of magnet thing so it would come back. But I didn't see it on him. But anyway, I definitely think that, you know, there could be, maybe they're slowly giving him serum. We'll see. But
maybe.
Yeah, because they
just don't know it.
Yeah, I mean, look, we'll get into this scene here as we work our way shortly. But the fight with the Flag Smashers, I was kind of like, I feel like if you were totally regular, you should be just get crushed.
Right.
So yeah, you know, I mentioned the mission, the jumping out of the plane, you know, transitioning that into the truck scene. Did you guys have anything that was in that hangar scene or the cargo, or I guess in the jet scene, whatever you want to call it, that you kind of picked up on?
I love their disconnect already. Like, even when they meet in the hangar and he's like, you know, why'd you get up the shield? And he's asking questions, and, you know, he's asking like what he's going to do, and he wants to go along. Like, he's finally reaching out to Sam, like his therapist had mentioned in the first episode. And then I love the reference he makes to The Hobbit. That was hysterical. I watched it when it came out in 1943 or something like that.
37, yeah.
37. I also thought that made me laughing. And then when they get on the plane, he calls him Buck, and he's like, don't call me that. You know, only Captain call me that, because he knows, you know, he knows me. I'm his friend. I've known him for years on jazz and stuff. So that there's still a disconnect between them. They haven't worked out their marital issues, so to speak. But like, I think they're working towards it. Yeah. And I mean, they're gonna have to. But we have 4 more episodes, and I think at some point they're gonna become a pretty dope tandem.
Yeah.
In the hangar, I love when he calls him a few years in Wakanda, and you're now White Panther. I thought that was hysterical. And he calls himself White Wolf, which is actually mentioned in the comics. It's it's a group of like they're like he's a leader of like an underground, like not an underground, but like a secret kind of like cop force. I think that's what it is. I think.
Oh, really?
I think it is. Let me I bring up my notes real quick.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It is. Where is that? Crap, I lost it. But yeah. Oh, wait, here it is. A secret Wakandan police force is
Winter Soldier's the head of that?
Yes. I'm sorry. Wait. Say that again.
Winter Soldier's the head of that is the White Wolf?
Oh, no. But there's a character who is called the White Wolf. It's not him, but they just refer to him as White Wolf just for the whole thing. But like, it's a guy named Hunter. In the Hunter, the White Wolf is the character's name in the comics. Okay. So it's just
oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Also, it actually is also referenced in Infinity War. Before the fight scene, Black Panther says we have to awaken the White Wolf.
Yeah.
And then they give him the arm, the Wakandan arm. Yeah. So he is referenced in that movie as well. So
great.
But yeah, sorry to call back, but I like that that little scene where he's like, no, I'm the White Wolf, and it referenced Infinity War.
Yeah.
But in that hangar scene, one thing, I just like how he just showed up. Like Bucky like he was in a military base. He just walked in.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know it's a TV show and they got to like kind of filter things, but I was like,
oh, I didn't even think about that.
He's not running like military things. He's just hanging out. He just showed up in a military base. I was like, all right. I did like their back and forth, but I just found it, you know, it's a TV show, so I'm not going to harp on it. But I was like, how'd he get in?
Just show up. Like, I mean, it was pardoned, but wow.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I went, no, I didn't even think about that. Because that was a military base, you know, and they were going to do a mission. I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess he just walks wherever he wants to walk and gets in wherever he needs to get in. So,
also, Eddie, to your "Don't Call Me Buck" reference, I think that's going to play out later on.
Oh, agreed. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, I think that's a little reference where they will like finally like their marriage will work. He'll be the only other one probably to be able to call him Buck. If I make a prediction down the line.
I think that's a reasonable prediction.
For sure.
Well, in their first fight scene together, they don't do so well on the truck against the Flag Smashers. They basically get their butts kicked, and then Red Wing is destroyed. Poor little thing.
Which I loved personally.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I did like the Sebastian Stan line. I forget exactly what he said. He said,
I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah, which was hilarious.
And it's good that it happened because, I mean, in reference to episode 1, he said, whenever Ops touches him, it gets all glitchy. And then they mentioned later in the episode that they found out where they were based on Red Wing. So the government hacked into that. So you're like, it's cool that they got rid of it. How you can start it fresh and get a new one.
Yep.
But yeah, so I was like, great, awesome, they got rid of him.
Yeah, that'd be cool if they had a maybe an Ironheart cameo, Riri Williams, because she's a tech genius and maybe she builds them a new Red Wing. And it's just like, sick. That's literally the only thing that she's in here for. And she's gone. I'm like, all right, I like what you did there. That's pretty cool. So we'll see if that happens.
We'll see you in your own TV show later.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyway, I just thought of that on the fly here, just sitting here. I'm like, wait a minute. You know what they could do here is bring in Riri. So Walker and Hopkins, who we get introduced to as Battlestar here shortly, come into the scene and they hold their own ish. A little bit better than what I thought, but still get their butts kicked. I don't know. The battle scene I basically saw is like, wow, these super soldiers. It was just an introduction that they were clearly super soldiers. Mike, what was your takeaway from kind of this fight and them jumping in before they all get into the car together?
So with that truck scene, one of the things I just want to go back to, I always find it so cool with like Buck running as fast as he can.
Oh, yeah.
When they do
So
that
great.
in Endgame, Infinity War, like Black Panther running, like anytime they run as fast as hell, I love. Like I'm in. I don't know why, but I'm like, it's so awesome. But yeah, I thought the truck scene was a pretty cool scene. I found it interesting how they all showed up on the top of the Mack truck. Again, I'm harping little details, but it was just like, where was that?
At what point?
Yeah, like I didn't see him get out a door. No, they just grabbed Bucky and they're all fighting.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting. I think they all got their butts kicked pretty much. My one little caveat, I thought it was very interesting that the new Captain America, he used a gun.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I did pick up on that.
Like he, that was a very one thing where I was like, oh shoot, like he really is just a normal dude, like that's where I think he doesn't have super strength. I think like he in order to like fight, he had to use a gun, which again, I'm not knocking it, but it was just like a very not Captain America thing. Yeah. But yeah, it was a cool scene. I think, like you said, the little rocket being destroyed, I think it helps them not be tracked or anything like that. And maybe, he creates a new tech for that. So that might be cool to see. But yeah, it was pretty cool.
Nice. Eddie, you got any more thoughts on that?
I do. So they show up. I'm gonna start calling him Walker because I don't want to call him Cap. It just feels wrong.
Yeah, sorry, Walker. I forgot.
No, you're good. It's cool. If you forgot his name, totally fine too. He lands out there and he seems like he's very like reckless with the shield. Like he's not aware of his surroundings. He just throws it and hope it makes contact with somebody. But like there were like 2 occasions where he almost hit Bucky and like just did not care if he did or not. And then I think on the second term he threw it past Bucky's face like right here. And then he caught it on the way back and then handed it to him. And you're like, because Cap, our Cap, OG Cap, like he's super aware of his surroundings and how he throws a shield, who's around when he does it. This guy just seems like it's one of those like get the job done no matter what, and whoever's in the way is in the way. Period. And then he'll blame you
that later for sure.
Yeah, and it's just like I don't understand it, but it was a cool callback when he caught it with not even his metal arm, but or the Wakandan vibranium arm, like his actual hand, and then like tossed it to him.
Yeah.
And I agree with Mike. It was weird seeing him with a gun. Like even when he walked out in the ceremony in episode 1, you saw it on the hip, right? And it's just like Cap used a gun in First Avenger back when he first became was it World War II? Is that what it was when that took place?
I think so.
World War II.
Yeah.
World War II. Which was okay, yeah. Like which is cool. He hadn't figured out how to really kind of be without the gun, and then he figured it out, and then you're just like, you're just not used to it. So then when you see it in this, you're like, oh, he's using a gun. He's actually killing people. You're like, I'm not with this.
Yeah.
I agree with Mike. The gun was weird. It didn't sit well.
No, I'm glad you guys brought that up because it definitely that moment stuck with me. As short as it was, I was kind of like, all right. So after they all get their butts kicked, they're walking, and you got another moment with Bucky and Sam where they're just, developing that love-hate relationship a little bit. And then John Walker and Hopkins drive by and want to pick them up. And then they've got that ride together where, excuse me, Hopkins says, I'm Battlestar, which I thought Sebastian Stan's reaction was friggin' hilarious. He's like, stop, I'm out. Like, no, what is this? It really was kind of hilarious where I'll bring up a Battlestar image in the background here, but my biggest takeaway from that ride was basically just further developing the friction between these four the two teams, the two different teams, there's friction being built there. But I did have to admit, I really enjoyed that kind of just like laughable moment where he brought up Battlestar, and I'm very intrigued to see, because technically in the comics there was a little bit more of a group besides Walker and Lamar Hoskins, and it was almost like they started like as wrestlers and all this weird crap, but they all eventually take the super serum to become super soldiers. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. What did you guys, Mike, what, anything in this kind of scene that really jumped out at you or that you were biggest takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, I would say Bucky, he like shows all his emotion on his face, and that entire time he hated everything about both those guys. And you can tell like he was making it very like clear. He's like, I hate you, Wilson. I hate Battlestar. And it was just one of those things where he was like, as soon as he heard Battlestar, he's like, now they're just making up their own names. Like this, like he was like, I'm out. But I think he realizes that, maybe he just doesn't get the right vibe from these guys. Even in the fight, like I think he just knows that, they're just kind of dicks. But they're also, I would say, kind of, I don't want to call them mirror images of Bucky and Sam, but they're kind of like, they're parallel people, and you can see that they're very different, but they're trying to do the same thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Where are you at, Eddie?
I agree with Mike 100%. You see the separation when they're walking outside the car versus when they're in the car riding, and then you see when they're in the car and they're sitting on separate sides. They just don't believe in the same thing. And I feel like Bucky's his reaction is such a New Yorker kind of thing. Like you just kind of like, I don't like you, bro. Like I just don't. It's very East Coast in that regard. Like you can judge someone based on like, I just don't like your vibe. Everything you say, I'm not feeling it. And I love when he just can't get over the name. All right, just get me out of the car. I can't do this.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny when they mention the super soldier serum, because they kind of look at it like that can't be true. What about Walker and Hoskins when they mention it when they're walking in the car. And also, I love how Walker's talks like he was trained like Captain America, quote unquote. That he was like, have you ever fell on a bomb or fell on a grenade? He was like, yeah, I did. But I used a helmet that was reinforced steel. Now you're trained like Cap, sure, but you don't have the heart that he does. Right. In the movie, he fell on the grenade whole body. He's like, I'm gonna die. This is it. Like he did it to save his life, but also stop the grenade. So it's like you're not the same person.
Yeah.
You are a carbon copy and not that good of a copy.
Yeah.
And what I thought was so disrespectful was when he says, I'm trying to be the best Cap I can be. It would be a whole lot easier if I had Cap's wingmen on my side. And you're like, yo.
It's always that last line, just like how Sammy said.
Like, you don't understand the relationship. Like, they weren't wingmen. They were friends. They were partners. They were boys. Like, that's the thing that he didn't make the connection. And when you say something like that, that's, you clearly don't care.
Yeah.
That's what got me.
Also,
go ahead.
Also, that's the one part where I started hating him, because it went from I I'm questioning everything to it is my position and I need you to give me affirmation.
Right.
Like it was as soon as he said it, I was like, all right, this guy went back to being an asshole. Like,
Yeah.
I'm out.
Well, and that's I felt like when he said that to him, I'm like, he's asking these two legitimate, like, world-saving people to be his wingmen. Not only is he insulting them to say that they were Cap's wingmen, but he's now asking them to be his wingmen. And I'm like, bro, like, double insult there. And I really, the writing was really on point with that scene where, you know, the line that Anthony Mackie delivers is, well, it's just that last line, you know, and it's like, you think about that anytime you're in a fight with a loved one or anybody. And at the moment you walk away, they just say one thing. You're just like, you know what? Big middle finger to you. I'm out. See ya. So
they should be asking what they can do to help them, not the other way around.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, have you ever thought, you know, Alien Army, any sort of, have you been an assassin for, you know, one of the most secret agencies in all of history? Like, no.
Have you been dusted for 5 years?
Yeah,
let's start there.
Yeah, did you come out like raged and kill this giant beast with your Falcon wings? Like, you know, you haven't done none of that. Get like, come on, man. Like, don't step to me like that. So
full of yourself.
Yeah, which I think, I mean, look, eventually I think all of these little things that we start to see as we slowly learn to hate John Walker more and more, that it's gonna, and I think he's gonna start realizing that he can't keep up, and I think that's where his storyline will develop more. But more on that in a minute. So the next scene is basically, I didn't pick up much on this scene personally. The next one is basically the Flag Smashers in that refugee place. It seemed like just a random situation where they were developing those characters a little bit. I have to admit that I did get some Black Panther vibes on this, and bear with me a little bit. I'll tell you why, is because the message Killmonger had as a villain in Black Panther, I thought like the foundation of it was very strong, and it resonated with people very much so. And when the Flag Smashers were in this area, one of the things that they said was like, I think it was like one world, one people, or something like that. And I'm like sitting there going, at the foundation of who I am, I like what you're saying here. I'm like,
Every villain has that.
I know. I'm like, I don't hate this. Like even Thanos was like, I want it better for people. And so they said this, and I'm like, no, like, are you leaving just a little bit here for me to actually? Anyway,
all it takes is a catchy moniker.
Yeah, man. It's I don't know. That's my only takeaway from that scene. Did either of you guys have anything that scene kind of like, you know, resonated with you?
Let me go. I agree. I agree with Thor. Like the idea, like there's been so many villains, Killmonger, Thanos, Ultron. They all have an idea that on paper is like, I'm on board. But then the actual process of it, you're like, okay, I wouldn't do that. I might change a couple things. Like, I wouldn't kill everybody and start over. Maybe just, you know, start over and just make things better. But like, yeah, I feel like a lot of the villains in this show, you side with them to start, not the show, but like just the overall MCU. Like you start off like, I'm with you 100%. Like I see where your head's at, but the approach is always not what you expect, and that's where you take the turn of not liking them. I mean, much like John Walker, like you go on board to start, and then you're like, no, I'm good. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. What about you, Mikey?
The one thing I took about that little scene and I might be reaching, and it might have been the area, but I thought the guy that was helping them out, like, had a very similar, like, but almost sounded like Zemo, like had the same like dialect, and so I think that might be like a connection somewhere down the line. Again, I could be wrong, but it was just one of those things where I was like, he's kind of got that vibe. And also the one thing that we really didn't talk about is the text she got from the unknown number is, you took something from me, I'm gonna kill you, like I'm gonna kill you for it. Or so I think obviously that probably has something to do with the super serum. And
the power broker people.
What's that?
The power broker people, I'm assuming, is what maybe like that's the connection.
I definitely want to hit on that for sure.
And it's going to be interesting to see if what they stole, like they have to keep taking, or like it lasts forever. Because they seem to be stealing stuff nonstop, so it's got to be for a reason, because I think they said they were stealing medicine on that truck. So maybe I think there's definitely some more to it than just super soldiers. I think they obviously all have superpowers, but they're definitely doing something with the power broker people that should be very interesting to see. But that quick text from the unknown number means we'll probably see another bad group down the line. I'm gonna guess it's probably has to do with that government dude in the very beginning who gave John Walker, Captain America, the guy with the beard. He probably runs Power Broker. I'm willing to put my money on it.
Interesting. All right, I see you.
I think he's bad anyway, so he might as well run the Power Broker. So, so that was just an interesting take, but it was just like a little small scene that I think the only relevant part you got was that text where they're being also chased by someone else.
Yep. And there's a scene on that later we'll hit on a little bit. I think it happens a couple blocks after this one. But Eddie, did you have anything else that you picked up on that, or anything you want to expand on what Mike said?
Oh no, Mike is great. I thought that was well put. I mean, well observed. Excuse me.
So after that, this to me is where I think we start seeing a lot of the racial undertones start to come out a little bit more. And this is after this scene we see Bucky and Sam talk about what they're going to do. And Bucky says, there's one more person that I'd like you to meet. And they go to meet Isaiah. And first off, before you even meet Isaiah, Falcon is called Black Falcon, and he makes the joke about the black kid, which I kind of like. Yeah, that's interesting. Like, he's a Black Falcon. We're like, what? Are you the black kid? Like, why are you defining me by my race? Which I found very interesting. And then, shortly after, and there really is so much here, because right after that you go in to meet Isaiah, who, for those of you who are not familiar, that is Isaiah Bradley, who is basically the Black Captain America, who I just frankly loved this scene. You can see the actor, the grandpa actor, the older man actor in this.
He's so good.
Dude, he murdered that scene. Just like his true rate. I was thinking about it this morning when I was watching it again. And just like whatever he went into to find that anger and frustration, I just thought he delivered so well on it. Yeah, I mean, and then, well, before we go to the scene right after that, let's just lay there. Eddie, where are you at on this whole kind of interaction with Isaiah and, these guys going to this place and just interacting with him?
For sure. When it started off with the kid, it's Black Falcon, yada, yada, yada. I think that was kind of a nod to the idea that like a lot of comics back in the day, and I think that some of them still do this, they would give black characters like that title. It would be like, like Black Goliath or something like that. Like it wasn't just a separate, it wasn't like you can't just be this character. You have to be like black plus this character. So that was a kind of an interesting thing for comics, that they'd been doing that over the years. So that was kind of a fun little Easter egg, also like an informative kind of scene. When we meet Isaiah Bradley, my man looks like he is just tired. I mean, of like the BS and the life that he had. I mean, dude was in jail for 30 years being experimented on for this whole thing. And when he throws the little like that little like dish, I guess,
the
container through the
or
wall,
whatever it is. Yep.
And Sam was like, "Yo, like, who is this guy?" He was like, "Oh my god." But yeah, Carl Lumbly is a fantastic actor, and so like when he delivered that scene, that was like touching. That was deep. Like he really went to a place for that. Because I mean, you're looking at a guy who was experimented on, who was put under wraps. Like he was essentially you could almost say one of the first Captain Americas, because he was, I mean, at least the first black one, if anything else. And he just had his life erased for 30 years. He was just this hidden experiment that they were testing him, and not just Shield, but Hydra too. I mean, because he said your people, and you're like, oh my gosh, Hydra.
Yeah.
And I believe this is also based on like an actual like historical event, where the government gave black men syphilis in the Tuskegee experiments. I think that's on the same like parallel. But yeah, I mean, that scene I was like, this guy is really feeling it, and his son, Elijah Bradley.
Yeah.
You don't know much about him. Very quiet in the scene, but you can tell that he feels his father's pain too. just based on the anger and the frustration and the sadness. But I thought it was a really just intense scene. It was just really intense.
Yeah.
For a guy who we just got introduced to.
For real. I mean, what was his screen time? It was probably under a minute or two, and you're just like, wow, I immediately care about this character. The first thing I thought of, I was like, okay, so who's going to be playing the young Isaiah Bradley? So that we can see some sort of like what he went through and his adventures, like legit. Like, no, I don't want a flashback. I'm like, I want to see a show. I was like, I wanted to hear more about this character and like, what did he do? What did he have to go through? Why did he get, put in this? Part of me, I don't even know if it's a prison as much as it was like an encampment. They just wouldn't let him leave, and they basically were like, you can't be out. We can't have you out there. And part of me is gonna look if I
wouldn't. Real quick, I'm sorry. I wouldn't say it's. We don't want you out there. I think it's like we don't want you out there and being a symbol, because then that would give African Americans a voice.
Yeah, 1,000%.
To have someone who is like him do what Captain America can do and be black, the government back then would not allow that. That would never happen, because giving someone like us a rise like that would just be impossible to handle or accept. Yep. Like, so I'm sorry, continue.
I was going the exact same road, and that's why they basically kept him there. Is not it wasn't just to test him to figure out how to like duplicate the serum or whatever, but it was because they couldn't have that. You know what I mean? Right. It's like, no. I mean, GI Bills, when you came back, white versus black, who could get houses and who loans for houses. There's a big difference there. You know what I mean? And that's when that was all playing out. So they absolutely would have treated a black Captain America different than they would have treated a white Captain America. So I really did, look, ultimately, I just want to see a throwback, or not just a throwback, but some sort of like series about this guy, or even if it's a small thing, I think it could be cool potentially. So anyway,
Mike, I want to hear what you.
Yeah. Where you at?
No, I'm with you guys on the scene. I thought it was an awesome scene. Couple things. So, and I like kind of did some like looked up like the history of Black Captain America for his character, and apparently. They were trying to redo the serum, and they were testing it on black soldiers, and all of them died, but he was the only one that survived. So that's and I think he had like a run even, with, I mean, I think they even said it. I mean, he took out Bucky when he was Winter Soldier, right? Like he ripped his arm off, and even there was a part where Isaiah stood up at him. And even as an old guy, I was like, this guy is terrifying. I was like, I don't know how old you're supposed to be, but you are scary big. Like he could beat up people still. But I thought it was a very emotional scene. Another little, while looking up like his history as Black Captain America, he was. I think you hit it on the head, Eddie. Where they didn't want him to be, the symbol, because apparently he was. I think from what I read, and I could be wrong, but he was the first person to get the serum to take the place of Captain America. But I think you're right. I think they didn't want to give. I think that time they didn't want him to be a moniker or symbol, especially in the show. They're saying it was in North Korea in the 1950s, which I mean, no. And so the other thing too, his son, and I think they're setting this up in the shows, becomes Patriot, which is a young Avenger. Right. And I think they're setting up Young Avengers, because I think it obviously hasn't played yet, but with Hawkeye's show coming out and his daughter.
It's not his daughter. It's unless they do this show differently, but Kate Bishop. Kate Bishop. Kate Bishop. Sorry. I don't. Yeah, it's not technically his daughter, I don't believe. I'm pretty sure about that, but it is someone who's kind of under his wing, so to speak.
Right. But I think there's maybe like kind of little Easter eggs there for a Young Avengers down the line. But in terms of the scene, really emotional scene, the fact that he was probably the only one who like gave Winter Soldier during that time. He ripped his arm off. I mean,
A run for his money for sure.
A run for his money. And also, it was very interesting to see during that whole conversation, just Sam's face, just like so confused, but like so, like you could tell he was like, wait, there was, because I think the whole thing is, I think there's subtleties to what they're going on. Is I think Sam's character, that was me.
Oh, okay. That was me.
It's all good, buddy.
Sam's character, I think, has this thing where he doesn't think he deserves to be a black captain, like Captain America, like that symbol being a black man. And I think when they leave, well, we can talk about that, but I think that's like his whole fight he has in his mind. And he's like, there was someone I could have talked to like maybe give me like guidance. And I think he definitely probably will come back in, and I think it will be in a later episode, but I think he wanted someone to like guide him, being like, can I have this moniker or power and be like okay as a symbol, you know what I mean? So it was just like, he didn't say anything in the scene, but you could tell his face was like processing everything,
Right.
what was going on. But I liked it a lot. It was an awesome scene. And again, I think Isaiah could still beat someone's ass.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it, for sure. So yeah, I mean, you guys both alluded to the following scene, where basically, you know, they're leaving and the police show up. And again, racial undertones. I'm gonna let Eddie, and I talked about this quite a bit before the shooting. And, you know, I mentioned the trigger warning earlier that the show added. And oddly enough, Eddie, before he even told me the scene, he's like, yeah, there was a part of the show that just triggered me. And I was like, wait a minute. Was it the police scene? He's like, yeah. And I was like, dude, they added a trigger. Anyway, so Eddie, I want to hear a little bit from you about that scene, how to trigger you, like just obviously in the show, in regards to the show too, just like how they interact. But I also want to, how it triggered you, what they're doing in the show, and like what you think they're kind of like leaning towards here.
For sure. So when they step outside and they're walking through the street and they're having an exchange, they're kind of getting loud, and you're like, all right, you're arguing, cool. And then in one of the shots, you see over Sam's left shoulder, there's a cop car that rolls by, and right then there, I was like, oh god. Like, I was like, here we go. Like the moment the light, like the siren, whoop, I was like, here we go. And then it happened. They got the car. Sir, calm down. Why are you raising? I'm not raising my voice. Or, you know, is this man bothering you? And that right there, that line right there, that got me. Is this man bothering you? And I was like, why would you naturally assume that Sam is bothering Bucky? And he was like, no, we're together. And like, and it's funny how Bucky was trying to cooperate, and Sam's like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, he's very much like, I'm not in the wrong, so why should I have to cooperate? And I see these scenes in movies all the time, and I'm always on edge. Like, even this isn't like an exact scene reference, but like in 42, the Jackie Robinson movie, when he's playing the Phillies, and the manager for the Phillies is just like berating him, calling the N-word back and forth, and you're like, I sat in the theater and like clutched my seat because I was trying so hard to just get through the scene. It's moments like that where I am like, I'm blessed in the sense that I didn't grow up in that atmosphere, and I'll never truly experience that. But I'm also sad that I'll never go through that because I can't relate, but I feel it just based on the tension in the scene. And it's like, dude, like, I don't know what would compel somebody to just go to a place where this person must be doing this thing wrong to you when you don't even know the whole story yet. You're just guessing based on what you see and based on a color bias. And it's like, that, oh my god, that scene. And so that they're definitely deep diving that in this show. They're definitely not holding back. I mean, with Isaiah's story, and then with the whole Black Falcon thing, and then the whole scene with the cops. Yeah, but what was your? I'm sorry. Before I go too far, what was your second question as far as what you're asking? I
mean, I wanted to hear your experience, how it made you feel, but also how the show is kind of, maybe focusing in on this. It's a slight undertone, in my opinion, at the moment, but just kind of like artistically or thematically, however you want to view it, like the narrative that the show is trying to play here. I was curious to see what your thought, what they were attempting to accomplish here.
I honestly respect Marvel for doing it, for even like dipping their toe in this because of that whole trigger warning. Like, there are some people that would probably see this episode and go, "Why would they add that? What does it matter?" But like, you need to add it because there's a difference here. We live, as people say, in two different Americas. Some people don't believe that. I do, and it's a thing. And so I respect that Marvel's doing that because like they're letting people know, like, yo, this is a real thing. This is not something you can just like go, oh, it doesn't exist. It does exist, and you need to see it. I love that they did it with this scene. I love who they did it with. And it was done in a way that was justified. It wasn't done like crappy. It was done in a way that I can respect. It wasn't done. It wasn't like just kind of like, oh, we'll throw the scene in there just to have it in there or whatever. Like they did it justice and made the tension real. So that I really enjoy. That's where I'm at with that. But whew, that scene was
it was you know Mike. Well, before I chime in, Mike, where were you at with it?
No, I mean I thought the scene. I'm with Eddie on kind of everything he said. They made it very clear there's different parallels on how they're talking to one another. Even to where the cops are asking for Sam's ID but not Bucky's.
Right.
Like if there's a conflict between two people, like if two people are fighting, maybe talk to go equal opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Obviously there's parallels, but it was just I thought it was a good scene. I think we talked about it kind of previously. I think this show is going to bring all sorts of things like that up. I mean, they are doing it in every sense, and I respect Disney for doing it. Right. But it was a scene that I hate to say it, but it's probably happens in real life and is really not far-fetched in any way with how Sam was being treated to Bucky. I also, towards the end of that scene where Bucky has to be the one to go, do you know who this guy is?
Yeah.
Right. He, it's just like, and then finally they're like, oh, I'm sorry, but I thought it was a great scene. Eddie, all your points are vastly true. I think Disney did it perfectly in terms of not over sensationalized. It was such a simple scene, but it hit the correct way.
Right.
And I to go to kind of end the scene when Bucky gets arrested. I still find it so funny they handcuffed him. Not to change the subject in any way. He's a super soldier with a metal arm made of vibranium.
Right.
You don't so not to make it go light or to go off topic, but when they did that, I was just he could just think.
What is the point?
But in terms of that scene, I thought, like I said, very subtle in the way they did it, and they did it, I think, the correct way to give it feeling, because I had I wasn't necessarily triggered, but I was I also didn't see the trigger warning. I wasn't paying attention in the very beginning of the show, so I saw a warning, and I thought it was a warning for how there's people with epilepsy get flashes. I thought it was that warning, so I didn't pay attention to it. So when you guys mentioned the trigger warning, I didn't even put that together.
Yeah,
I missed it too. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was like, wait, there was?
And I don't know if it's at the beginning of the show, but I saw it somewhere online, people discussing it. So I was going oh, okay, this is a real thing. And to jump back to the heavy aspect of this for a second, one thing I'll never, and I think I've talked about this with Eddie before, but a moment in my life where Eddie and I were just talking about race relations. I think we were playing catch in the front yard or something like that. We started talking about it. And he mentioned this thing to me. He's like, when you get pulled over, when you were taught how to properly get pulled over by a policeman. I was like, what? And he's like, you've got to have your hands, directly on the wheel. You got to face forward. You got to say yes, sir, no, sir. You got to wait to roll down the window. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
Dog.
And he's just like, that I had to be taught that. I'm like, what? I'm like, dude, I've gotten pulled over tons. I almost cussed out a cop once. I'm like, what are you talking about? And so, and look, I always knew that there was divides, people experience things differently. But for whatever reason, when Eddie told me about that, something hit home, and it still hits home with me every single time. And so when this scene came up for me, I always honestly think of Eddie a little bit, where I'm kind of dude, of course this is different. Of course, right. It's and Sam's like, I'm not doing anything. And they're just talking to Sam. And then the ironic part is they're there to arrest Bucky. You know what I mean? And I'm like, so it's definitely all right. I do also, we know, some of the people who work on the show, Nate Moore, for instance, I know he was involved in Black Panther and, Falcon Winter Soldier. He's been involved a lot with, and I like his approach to things. It seems like anytime he's involved in a movie, one, the movie seems to be amazing, and two, he seems to be doing a really good job of making sure that race is front and focus to a lot of things. Now, again, I don't know if that's his doing or not, but his involvement in these projects seems to bring out a lot of really good things. So shout out to some guy named Nate Moore. I hear good things about him. So supposedly he's a good human being. I don't know anything about that, but so yeah. So anyway, is there anything else that you guys have on this overall scene? That, I mean, it was a heavy one, so I wanted to spend some time on it, but.
No, Disney, I was going to say, I saw on Twitter, Disney put out like a little featurette before the episode, and Nate and a couple other producers were kind of giving a glimpse into what the episode was about. And I think that is going to be, not a focal point, but, a theme with this season. And it's not, I think it hit home because it's everything that's kind of going on in real life. They're putting their own stamp on it, and kind of like we talked about it last time. It's interesting to see, like a superhero being treated or even like feeling like he's like not good enough, when he's done so many good things. So I'm all, if they keep doing this route, I think it's necessary, and also I think it will be compelling and like bring in an emotional aspect to the show, because it's like already, like we've said in the two episodes, it's like Anthony Mackie is, that shield is his, no one else's. There's nothing else. So I thought it was still a strong scene, and it probably won't be not the last, but there's going to be definitely undertones throughout.
Yeah,
for sure.
There you go. Okay, so transitioning from that scene, basically they're in jail. John Walker ends up being the one who bails out Bucky, which we'll get to in a minute. But then the focus of this scene was mainly the counselor, which I have to admit, it did feel a bit rushed. Mike's mentioned a couple times, like some of the things they don't explain how they got on the truck. They don't explain how Bucky got into the base. This was a thing where I'm like, yeah, this feels like it's something like we have to touch a lot of things here, and we've only got this really small, minute amount of time to do it. So but I still like the attempt they're doing here to develop their relationship. I like the passion behind it, and my takeaway from this one is the passion behind Bucky and the scene getting so upset at Sam for giving up the shield, but not just because he gave it up, but because what it meant about Bucky, because he was so upset because he's like, if Cap was wrong about you, that means he was wrong about me. And I think that's where Bucky, the PTSD and all these things are going to come out, where I actually feel chills in my body for this, for a reason, which is weird. I think part of it is, as a parent, like my biggest fear is not being a good parent, and I want my child to succeed, obviously because I love them, but part of it is because I don't want to fail. I don't want to be something that is not achieving something or not in a good light. So that part resonates with me a little bit, where I'm kind of like, wow, yeah, he can't be wrong about you, because then I'm a bad person. So obviously there was some other stuff that was funny about the staring contest, which is okay, fine, whatever. But that was my biggest takeaway, was the Sam thing. So Mike, what this scene for you? What did you like, dislike, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think Sam and Bucky have great chemistry, so they're back and forth. This is, like we've talked about, like a buddy cop sort of. Their banter is just entertaining. They're very good, but you can also, I think throughout Bucky's whole thing of why did you give up, I know they have a back and forth and they say they dislike each other, but you can tell Bucky wants him to he deserves this. He's pushing this issue because he knows that Sam is worthy, if you will. Yeah. Sam doesn't think he's worthy yet, but he keeps questioning on it nonstop. I think there's also a sense of affirmation for himself, like you said. Cap was wrong about he could be like still an assassin, like he's a bad person sort of thing. But I think he truly like just wants Sam to like succeed and take on the moniker and like have that like attitude that he deserves it. Even though they have this like banter and they say they hate each other, like you can tell like even the scenes where Sam was watching, I think the Good Morning America thing, he was like upset.
Yeah.
Right.
And in terms of the Rush thing, I think they can get away with this one with the psychiatrist coming, because I think he got arrested in Baltimore, and if she's in New York, it really isn't that far amount of time for her to get there. So I wasn't really like thinking about that aspect. But where was I going? Yeah, it was interesting to just kind of that she brought both of them in just to get a vibe, because I think she's realizing that they kind of need each other. Like she invited Sam in because I think she realizes he's like a key for Bucky, and vice versa. Yeah, it was entertaining, like the staring scene and all that, and them getting close and messing around. I liked it. But it'll be. I think she'll be back too. She seems like she's also worked with John Walker. She said she's done some things, so I think it's not the last we've also seen of her in some capacity. So yeah, or even honestly was like John Walker's psychiatrist, so maybe he's got like some issues that we don't know about. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Eddie?
Yeah, I think with them, Bucky and Sam, their disconnect. How can I phrase this properly? So, because of what Bucky said, if he was wrong about you, then he's wrong about me, and he doesn't fully understand why Sam feels that he can't be Cap. You know what I mean? So, like, their disconnect has to do with the fact that they don't understand each other's situation. And I think they'll learn to do that as the show continues, and then they'll figure out like why each other feels the way they do about certain things. I want to go back a little bit to Endgame, when old Cap shows up, or no, before Cap leaves, he says, don't do anything stupid while I'm gone. How can I? I'm just checking on stupid with you. And he leaves, and old Cap shows up, and he goes, Sam, and he brings Sam over, and he just tells him to go over there, and he tells him to take the shield. I would love it personally if there was a scene where Bucky tells Sam what Cap told him before he left, or if there was a moment like that happened in Endgame, because it feels like there was. It feels like Cap told, like he talked to Bucky and was like, hey, so like this is gonna happen, doing this, yada yada yada, and when I get back, I'm gonna do this, and he kind of like let Bucky kind of just understand where he's coming from. I would love if that scene happened. I think it would definitely justify a lot for Sam. And even if it came when he's talking to like, I don't know, not Elijah, Isaiah Bradley and Bucky at the same time, this way it'd be like a definite like this is who you are now. Like you're going to be this person. Accept it. Like, and it's going to be amazing for you. Yeah. But yeah, I love the little I call it marriage counseling, because it really is like a marriage. And how they're lining up their chairs, but between their legs, and they're just yelling at each other. And I love how he doesn't break a stare. He's just super solid. And Sam's like struggling. It's just really funny. And then when he leaves, he's like, "Hey Doc, what was the second rule again?" He says, "Don't hurt anybody." And he goes, "Okay, thanks, Doc." And just leaves. And you're like, "Oh, like, is he gonna kill somebody?" Or like, no, like what's gonna happen? Yeah. But yeah, and then I wanna talk about John Walker in this particular scene too, because I just don't like him.
So that's a perfect transition into the next scene here, where John Walker and Battlestar basically trying to outside waiting. They do the siren, trying to recruit the two, Sam and Bucky again, and they say no. I'll just throw it out there right now. Walker, the way Walker ended that by saying, "Stay the hell out of my way." I was kind of like, all right, bro, that's cool. So anyway, go ahead, Eddie. You were on a flow there, so flow.
Like what else do you need to show this guy is terrible? Even when he bails Bucky out of jail, he flexes like, well, it was me, and you're like, dog. And then he tells the counselor like, he's my property now. Yeah. And you're like, oh, okay. Well, I didn't. She's like, yeah, like we're not our sessions. Oh yeah, well it doesn't matter because I own him, like quote unquote. Yeah. And like he doesn't really care about his well-being. He just wants to use him in any way that he can. And like that's that's wild. And then at the end, when they're outside and they're having that disagreement, and he says, you know, this stay the hell in my way. And Sam kind of, I think they both look at him kind of like, wow, that's ballsy of you. Mm-hmm. And then they bounce, and then they mention Zemo, and I got happy, but I want to get there after Mike says what he wants to say. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this. I think we kind of going through this whole process. We said like moments where we hated Walker, and this was like even the scene where he's talking to the psychologist, you know, being like, I did like this is I run the show. Like when she was like, who gave you jurisdiction? And he's just like, it's me. Like you can't say anything. Like I like that's where from that very first scene he had in the first episode of like maybe he like. You know, he has like some questions himself, like he doesn't deserve it. All out the window. Everything was bad, and their conversation back and forth. Where even Hoskins, like they're just dicks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude, 100%.
They're just like no, So yeah, so I mean, they're fully out. Like I can't wait for it, which even in the trailers they show. I can't wait for them to steal the shield back or how they take the shield back. I just can't wait for that to happen. Yeah. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to love every second of it. Hopefully it's the next episode. But the moment like, you know, Sam like beats the hell out of Walker to take that shield back or something, like I just can't wait. I can't wait for Bucky to like hold up Hoskins in the air with his arm and just like twirl him around. just get rid of them.
Yeah.
Totally on board.
Yeah, I think what I like where you're going there, because I think what will happen is that, and then what will happen after that is Walker and Hoskins are going to go to potentially the person I'm about to talk to in a second to get some super soldier serum. And we always have to remember that serum brings out what's already there. So, you know, if Walker's got those in there, then that's what's going to be amplified. Remember Abomination in the Hulk movie that was... I don't even know if it's canon anymore. I think it's canon. I don't remember. But anyway, so we'll see. So the next scene, you know, speaking of the person who might be, you know, I think, Mike, you mentioned earlier the text to Carly. The Flag Smashers are being pursued by somebody, and you're hearing people talk about the power broker. And clearly the power broker, I'll bring up, oops, I've disappeared me there for a second. The power broker is going to be somebody who shows up in this show. So the power broker, you know, I don't know a ton about him. I have to research him. It looks like there was a couple of different power brokers out there, but he's clearly, or she, whoever the power broker is after these people, which is kind of fun because it's another baddie. And I do think that maybe Walker and Hoskins end up reaching out to him to get some serum. But before we get to Zemo or anything, any takeaways from the fight scene with the guy who sacrificed himself for them to get away, and the true fear that they have about this power broker person?
I'm gonna use that, Mike. I'm still thinking.
I have a feeling, and I know we mentioned it, where we find out the girl's name, who the redhead, who's part of the Flag Smashers. Her name's Carly. I have I know the original, I think, bad guy in the comics, it was Carl. I forget how to say her name, but Mackinac or
Morgenthau.
Morgenthau. I have possibly a suspicion that maybe like her father is relegated to the power broker, like it's him, like you know, it's a daughter like going against her father's wishes or something, you know, like something like that. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe it's just her as you know, her own version of the character. But I can also see like Zemo, even though he's in prison, because he was so smart, like running things from prison, you know, like getting this guy power broker to kind of facilitate all these things. So it'll be like he knows all of Hydra's secrets, so he's got to know. He's got to know everything. So
Wilson Fisk level
I don't
power
know if the power broker is someone specific. It'll see. I'm guessing it's the person who probably texted her, you know, that text. It's also interesting, and again, I don't know the full aspect of the super soldier serum, but when the guy kind of sacrifices himself and he gets shot and murdered, like I thought there was a capacity of like not being bulletproof, but being able to survive, I think.
Healing at a faster rate kind of deal.
Healing fast rate, you know, because I've seen Captain America get shot before and all that stuff. So like, I don't know the context of how deep it goes. Maybe they aren't bulletproof. Obviously, you know, the shield protects them whenever he gets shot at. But it was interesting that he got shot up and got killed to sacrifice himself. But yeah, obviously there's, like we've said before, there's someone else involved in this, a bigger person. And I don't know who he or she may be, but it'll be interesting whether they're correlated with Zemo or, you know, Zemo gets out from the trailers. We know who gets out. So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see whether it's a person or a group, or what. So, but yeah, I can't wait for them to talk to him next week.
I know. So excited for that.
Yeah. What about what about you, Eddie? Like did you do any research on Power Broker or anything, or thoughts on him?
I know that the Power Brokers, if I'm correct in the comics, they actually gave Battlestar and John Walker their powers in the comics. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were somehow intertwined in the show. I would love it, like Mike said, if the person who texted Carly was her father, Carl Morgan, or not Carl. Yeah, Carl.
Yes, Carl.
In the I think that would be a great. I think that'd be a great go if it was like father against daughter. This whole idea of how the world should be and stuff. I have no theories yet. I'm trying to refrain from making theories after WandaVision. I'm like, I don't want to get caught up in a whole bunch of nonsense and then throw myself off again.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I don't have any theories yet. I'm gonna wait till things kind of keep building, and then I'll maybe throw some. Okay, here's a wild scheme and just have like a bunch of boards behind me. So maybe I'll do that, but not yet. I'm not doing anything yet.
For real. So
I like having theories.
Yeah, it's kind of nice, right? it makes it fun.
I don't go as over the top as Thor does. He goes nuts with his theory.
Look, WandaVision was on a little bit like, there's just a lot there, okay? I mean, there was a lot of stuff to jump into. We hadn't gotten any MCU content for a long time. I've been locked in my house. I got young kids that are just, you know, I needed something, okay? I was just like, hey, Joe Rogan, you got any more of that?
I still laugh at the tweet I sent you in our little group chat where it like mentions like USA John Walker or something, and then the tweet's like Mephisto.
Yeah.
Like I just
have you seen the meme that says the Mephisto and the Winter Mephisto? There's a meme out there. Yeah, it's just the Falcon and Winter Soldier logo, but instead of Falcon it says Mephisto. Instead of Soldier it says Mephisto.
In terms of like the crazy theories, I go more along the lines of like potential things. Like again, I think that guy, the government guy with the beard, he's going to come back. I think you're right, Eddie, in the sense of obviously in the comics, Walker becomes U.S. agent, and you know, I think if there is this serum out there where these people are taking them, I think your correlation is correct in that sense. But it'll be very interesting if how, you know, Zemo gets brought into it with everything.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, and that's how the episode ends, is them going to see Zemo and him being in prison. So personally, I mean, I just liked the teaser. I think it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, he gets out somehow. We don't know who he's helping or what he's doing. The Falcon and Winter Soldier are clearly going to talk to him about to get some Hydra secrets, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't have much to add to Zemo. I don't know if either of you guys do. I just think it's cool that he really is a mastermind. So I'm very interested to see how he plays into this.
Whenever they show a mastermind, he's always playing chess with himself.
Every
single time. Every prison,
Magneto,
every prison scene, every bad guy, Magneto in the X-Men movies. When you're super smart, you play chess with yourself.
Apparently.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't, Eddie, do you have anything from this Zemo stuff that you're just waiting to see how he shakes out?
Just wait to see how he shakes out. I'm a little bit like intrigued. If they're going to break him out, part of me feels like he might side with them to help against the Power Burgers, but I'm also like, he might have his own, like his other plan too. Like he might help them for a second and then change paths, and you're like, he was good for a second, and then you lost him again.
Yeah.
I mean, if they give him the option to like, we'll help you escape if you help us, there's always like a wait, like there's always a secondary plan.
Yep. Yeah, something's gonna happen. So,
like you said, the guy's a mastermind. He has plans on plans. It's not something you don't plan for the one. You plan for several outcomes.
Yeah. For sure.
Oh man, that would kill me.
So looking forward to seeing the rest of the series. Great episode 2. A lot of undertones we discussed. So hopefully everybody watching at this point enjoyed it. If you've made it this far, appreciate you. There's a Discord link in the description below. Hammer down on that like button, notification bell, subscription button, all that kind of stuff. And we'll be covering this, Loki. And we might do a Justice League thing right after this. We'll see. So if you want to check that out, do it. And until next time, we hope you guys have a wonderful day. See ya.